For thousands of years, humanity has basically been praying for the same thing. Give us this day our daily bread. It's a really simple prayer, right? And it comes from a simple, hard truth. The enemy was always scarcity. The empty field, the brutal winter, that gnawing feeling in your stomach. But what happens when we finally win that war? Just think about that for a second. A world of total, complete abundance, where technology has solved hunger forever. It really sounds like the ultimate dream, doesn't it? The heaven we've all been hoping for? Well, let's dive into that because the answer is way more complicated and honestly a lot more terrifying than you might think. So on one side, you have this incredible promise, what some people are calling universal high income, the future where, like Elon Musk says, anybody can have pretty much anything they want. But then on the other side, our source material warns us about something called a glittering famine, a world where our bellies are full, but our souls are completely empty. And that is the huge paradox we are going to unpack today. All right, so to really get where we're headed, we've got to look back at where we started. We need to go way back to the biblical era to understand what bread originally meant. It was a whole lot more than just something to eat. So, the whole secret to that famous prayer, it's hidden in this one single Greek word, episusios. Now, we usually translate it as daily, but thinkers way back, like St. Augustine, they pointed out it also means super substantial. And that's a huge clue. It tells us that this prayer was never ever just about calories. It was asking for a much deeper kind of sustenance, something for the body and the soul. So, think of our bread as this three-part deal, a complete package, really. You had the loaf, which was for the belly, your basic survival. Then you had the word for your mind and spirit. That's your purpose, your ability to choose right from wrong. And finally, you had the table for the heart, community, friendship, family. The big idea here, according to the source, is that these three things were totally inseparable. You take one away, and the whole thing falls apart. And that third part, the table, it was built through something the source calls the fellowship of friction, which is such a great phrase, right? See, back then, you absolutely needed your neighbor to survive. For the harvest, for defense, you were all in it together. This shared struggle, this friction, that's what forced people to rely on each other. It's what wove the fabric of community. Okay, so now let's fast forward to the 20th century because this is where that beautiful integrated idea gets just smashed to pieces. This is the moment in history when the promise of bread becomes a weapon. And the guy who really laid out the philosophical blueprint for this dark trade-off is Dostoevsky's Grand Inquisitor. His argument is bone-chillingly simple. People don't actually want to be free. The weight of making choices is just too much to bear. What we really desperately crave is security. And we will happily trade our freedom for a guaranteed piece of bread. And this wasn't just some theory, right? Totalitarian regimes in the 20th century put this playbook into action, step by brutal step. First, the state steps in and replaces the father, becoming the one and only provider. Next, food itself becomes a weapon to keep everyone in line. And finally, that sense of community, the hour in our bread, is systematically shattered. I mean, just look at the Holodomor in Ukraine. It was a man-made famine, specifically engineered to crush the Ukrainian people, turning neighbor against neighbor. Or think about the Nazi hunger plan, a cold, calculated strategy to starve millions. In both of these horrifying cases, you see how weaponizing scarcity isn't just about killing bodies. It's about annihilating the table, destroying fellowship itself. So there it is, the Inquisitor's offer, made terrifyingly real. The state holds out the loaf. It guarantees security. It guarantees you won't starve. But what's the price? They take the word. They take your freedom, your moral agency. They take your soul. And that brings us right up to today. Because the Inquisitor's dream, it's not some far-off dystopia anymore. It's actually being built right now, but not through terror and state control. It's happening through something that seems wonderful, benevolent technology. A world where abundance itself becomes the new enemy. To really wrap our heads around this, the source points to this incredible example from the fictional series Pluribus. So in this world, this hive mind called the joining basically absorbs almost all of humanity. And just like that, all our problems are solved. Poof, no more poverty, no more crime, no more hunger. Everyone is just peaceful, happy, and totally content. It's a perfect world. Sounds great, right? But wait a second. This perfect society,
The hive is radically pacifist. I mean, they won't harm a single living thing, not even a plant. So, in this perfectly happy, perfectly fed utopia, where on earth is all the food coming from?
The answer is absolutely horrifying. It's called human-derived protein. The hive, it recycles the bodies of its own dead, processing them into a nutrient paste. Humanity is literally feeding on itself to keep this peaceful, perfect world running. And get this, the show drives this point home with a cameo from John Cena, of all people, who explains this mass cannibalism with the calm, sterile logic of a corporate HR video. Okay, everybody, this right here is the absolute core of what we're talking about today. We've walked through 3 completely different eras. Now let's put them all together and see the central, mind-bending idea here, how the definition of heaven in one age becomes the hell of the next. Let's walk through this, because it's wild. In the biblical era, the obstacle, the Satan, was scarcity. The goal, the heaven, was community and justice. Then we flip to the totalitarian era. Now, the obstacle, the Satan, is the burden of freedom itself. And what's heaven? Total security. Finally, we get to our modern era of abundance. And that very same security, that peace and assimilation, becomes the new Satan. And the heaven we have to fight for now? It's individual agency. It's meaning. See the inversion? It's incredible. And this whole journey brings us to the absolutely shocking conclusion of this story. It's the ultimate act of resistance against a perfect, all-providing heaven. This is a story of one woman's last, desperate stand for the human soul. The hero of Pluribus is a woman named Carol Sturka, one of the very few humans who hasn't joined the hive. The source calls her the holy malcontent. Now, the hive gives her everything she could ever want, stocking grocery stores just for her with perfect food. But she refuses to take it. She chooses to scrounge, to steal, because accepting their perfect bread means accepting their reality. She needs that struggle, that friction, just to know she's still real. So when the hive finally decides to just forcibly assimilate her, to make her happy and safe forever, she doesn't try to negotiate. She doesn't ask for a treaty. She makes a very different kind of request. And it leads to this one stunning line of dialogue in the finale. Carol Sturka, what is this? Atom bomb. An atom bomb. I know, it's insane. But in a world that has been completely suffocated by a gentle, benevolent, all-encompassing peace, the source argues that the bomb becomes a kind of twisted prayer, a sacrament of what's called negative liberty. When you can no longer choose to create anything because the system does it all perfectly for you, the only freedom you have left, the only proof that you even exist as an individual, is the power to destroy. And that leaves us, you and me, with this really unsettling question to chew on. As we race towards a world that can answer our prayers for security and abundance with just the push of a button, what are we really praying for? Is it just for the loaf that fills our stomachs, or is it for the whole package, for the word that gives us meaning, and for the table that connects us to each other? Even if it means we have to hold on to the friction, the struggle, and the hunger that, at the end of the day, might just be what makes us human.